Hi, good evening. In the next 15-20 days, what we are going to go ahead and do is to discuss all the important questions that would be required from the point of view of this year's IIT JAM Economics paper. Every day, I will give you all the important questions that can be asked in the paper. You're supposed to go ahead, solve them, come back at 7, and we will go ahead and discuss these questions from 7 to 8, 8:30, how much ever time it takes. I'm going to make two types of assignments here. The first is going to be related to micro plus macro. And the second kind of assignment would be related to maths plus stats. I'll begin with this first because this covers a majority of the course. I will be able to cover at least 50 to 55% of the questions that are going to come in the exam. So I'm going to cover this. Simultaneously, go back, read on the topics that you think you're weak in these subjects. Then I will go ahead and focus on maths and stats together. So do these assignments on daily basis. Please do not keep it for the future. We do not have time. This is going to be intensive 15 days exercise for you guys. Let's see the first question. A central bank decides to increase money supply for a given price level. The LM is expected to. Now see here. Let us understand how do we go about making the money market? In money market, I have the supply of money. I have the demand of money. Wherever the demand of money equals to the supply of money, that is where we get the interest rate at equilibrium. So I plot this as my equilibrium. The LM curve is drawn in which plane? It's drawn in IY plane. So to understand the LM curve, we focus on the equilibrium condition. The equilibrium condition states that the demand of money should be equal to the supply of money. The demand of money has an equation KY minus HI. This should be equal to the supply of money. Now, because currently I have got an interest rate where my supply of money was equated to the demand of money, which means it was for a given level of income. Whenever there is increase in income, there is going to be increase in the demand of money because this is the equation for demand of money. So when there is going to be increase in income, there is going to be increase in the demand of money. And the new equilibrium will be at E dash. And we will have new interest rate at I dash. So increase in income causes the interest rate to increase. So the LM curve is upward sloping. This is how we had derived the LM curve. Now, see, you have to always remember whichever factor comes in the equation, those factors can only lead to movement along the curve. So whenever there is change in I or Y, this leads to movement along the curve. But what happens if there is a change in the supply of money? Let's see that. Supposedly, initially, this is the supply of money and this is the demand of money. And this is my initial level of interest rate. When the supply of money increases, there is a decrease in the interest rate. So interest rate decreases when the supply of money increases without affecting. Why? without affecting income. When your supply of money is increasing, interest rate is decreasing. So see here, y remains the same. So currently suppose y is at this level. Y remains at this level, but increase in the supply of money causes decrease in the interest rate. So interest rate is decreasing. So the LM curve is shifting downwards. Or you can say LM curve shifts to the right. So the first question has the answer that it shifts down and to the right as real money supply rises. So answer is C. You have to understand well the process of the equilibrium in the money market. And this is going to make sense. If there is more supply of money in the economy, you will want people to demand more money also, because demand has to be equal to supply. People will go ahead and demand more money. That means people will hold more money only when there is decrease in the opportunity cost of holding money. That means when there is a decrease in the interest rate, only then people will go ahead and demand more money. So this implies that the interest rate must decrease whenever there is increase in the supply of money. And if the interest rate decreases at any given level of income, y is not changing, but interest rate is decreasing, so the LM curve will shift downward or rightward, either way. So the answer is C. Go to the next question. The feature that distinguishes whether an analysis is classical or Keynesian is, now see here. See, when we talk about the classical versus Keynes approach, one, they tell us about the aggregate supply curve, right? So the classical economists always believed that the AS curve is at full employment level. This is what they believed. Whereas the Keynes believed that no, the aggregate supply is horizontal. So when we go ahead and talk about the classical versus Keynes model, they go ahead and they talk about how much can be supplied in the economy. They don't talk about what happens to the aggregate demand curve. They don't distinguish themselves based on the AD curve. So this part where we are talking about the slope of the aggregate demand curve, this part is, not correct, because they do not go ahead and they do not disagree on the slope of the aggregate demand curve. Second. Just reopen this. Okay, so they do not agree on the slope of the aggregate demand curve. What they agree on is basically the slope of the AS curve. So classicals say that you will be at full employment level, and Keynes says that, at the current prices, you will be willing to supply whatever amount you can as a seller. So this is not correct. We are not going ahead and talking anything related to the AD curve. Now, because we are going ahead and because we are talking about how much can be supplied in the market, We are also going ahead and talking about what happens to the amount of price adjustment. We're also going ahead and talking about how does prices adjust in the classical and the Keynes approach. So if you go ahead and you notice here, we talked about something which is known as the quantity theory of money. We said that MV is equal to PY. And we also talked about the fact that because we're talking about a classical economist, output is fixed at full employment level of output. And if your output is fixed at full employment level, the only thing that is going to change is going to be prices. This is the quantity theory of money, that in the long run, whenever we talk about our classical economist, output is always at its full employment level. Velocity of money is held constant. And whenever you increase your output, it increases your money. And actually, this happens by the same percentage. By the same percent. If you increase your output by 10%, you know, your prices are also, sorry, not output. If you increase your prices by 10%, money is going to increase by 10% and the other way around. On the other hand, in case of Keynes, it went ahead and said that we are not concerned. The price will be actually the same only. It is the quantity that you are willing to supply. So you may supply any quantity you want to, but at given prices. So the two things are very, very different. If I go ahead and I draw the AS curve together, then this is the AS curve that I will get. This is my long run AS curve, at which if I draw it in the PY plane, at the given level of output, only the prices increase. This is my medium run AS curve, and this is my short run AS curve. At the given prices, supply any output, but prices will remain the same. So this is basically talking about which theory? Keynes. This is classical. So what we can go ahead and say is that the speed of price adjustment is different when we talk about classical versus Keynes. Now let's go ahead and take the next question. Which one of the following measures the aggregate price level of goods and services included in the GDP? So basically the question is asking, you want to go ahead and understand the price level of goods and services, right? Now please see here. Let's try and understand this thing. See, when we talk about consumer price index, it only talks about those goods and services which are consumed by the final consumer. So only the basket of goods and services, not complete goods and services. Like for example, petroleum, for example, food. So the answer to this one is not consumer price index, because it's an index that only tells you about how the price is going to change for that particular basket of goods and services. Similarly, the wholesale price index is only an index which is to be used by wholesalers to understand how much inflation they are facing in the economy. GDP multiplier tells me how much times does GDP multiply itself. And we know the formula for this. Alpha G is equal to 1 upon 1 minus C. This is the GDP multiplier. The only thing that can tell us aggregate price level of goods and services is GDP deflator. So the answer to this is GDP deflator. Please remember this formula for GDP deflator. Let's write this down once. So write down GDP deflator is basically nominal GDP upon real GDP. Okay. So if you want from here the value of nominal GDP, nominal is in terms of price, real is in terms of goods, units. So if I want my GDP in terms of price, I can just rewrite it that my nominal GDP will be GDP deflator into real GDP. So if I just reverse this formula a bit, I will get the value of goods and services in terms of the prices. So the answer to this question is GDP deflator. Take the next question. Akash, let me know, okay? Stop me in between in case you have any doubt. Akash earns rupees M per week. Let PX be the price per unit of food. And PY be the price per unit of any other good Y. Any other good. Let's spend a moment here, okay? Usually, when we have two commodities X and Y, this is from chapter 2, okay? Chapter 2 variant. And the second commodity is all other goods other than good X. Then a lot of times, what we do is we set the price of this commodity as 1. And this is known as numeraire price. It doesn't change any of the analysis, but this is just done to represent that, you know, all other goods together, let them have the price 1. We do this a lot of times. I haven't read the question, but we can go ahead and do that also. Now let's read this out. So this says he can use food coupons to buy food at a subsidized rate of 1 minus SPX. So, you know, your new or the final price of food, this is 1 minus S into PX. And this subsidy can be availed only up to X star units. So it's not that, you know, you keep on consuming and you will get that price. So basically, this is the following question. If you consume some X units, then only for the first X star units, you get subsidy. And beyond this X star units, there is no subsidy. So let's first understand this part well. If I go ahead and I ask you to make the usual budget line, you will tell me that it is PX into X plus PY into Y is equal to income of the consumer. This is what you will do. So, you know, if we have to plot this, if I take good X here and I take good Y here, then when Y is 0, X will simply be M by PX. And when X is 0, Y will simply be M by PY. So I will get M by PX here, and let's say M by PY here, and I will get this as my budget line. This is the usual budget line. And the, you know, the slope of this budget line is going to be PX by PY. Now, it is saying that till first X star unit, till this X star unit, the price of good Y is PY only. PY is the same. But the price of good X, this is 1 minus S into PX. Right? So the price of good X is a little lower. Price of good Y is the same. So now, if I go ahead and I ask you what is going to happen in this case, see, in this case, if you spend your entire income on good Y only, nothing changes. You will be here only. But the moment you buy the first unit of good X, instead of paying PX, you will be paying a lower price. So the slope of this budget line will be 1 minus X into PX upon PY, right? So if you go ahead and you look at this budget line, so supposedly I give you any value. Supposedly the subsidy is 10%. So you will get 1 minus 0.1 into PX by PY. So this will be 0.9 PX by PY instead of PX by PY. So the slope is lower, right? So if I go ahead and I check this, what is going to happen? I am going to go ahead and I am going to get flatter or steeper slope in this case. Come on, what kind of slope will I get in this case? Just fine. Okay, so right. So basically my slope has fallen, right? My price of good X has fallen. Now, if you take some values and you check this, please see here. If you go ahead and find the slope in this case, let's say that price of good X is 10, price of good Y is 5. So the slope here is 2, right? So perpendicular by base is 2. For every perpendicular of 2, the base is 1. This is what I am saying. And here I am going ahead and saying that this is 0.9. Price is same only. I'm keeping price as 10 by 5. So this is, we get 5 here, right? 10 by 5. Sorry, we get 2 here. This is 1.8. So with 1.8, I'm saying perpendicular is lower. Perpendicular is not 2. Perpendicular is 1.8 for every 1 unit. So your slope will go ahead and become lower. Instead of this being 2 by 1, you have 1.8 by the same 1, right? So what happens to your slope is it becomes like this. This is going to be your slope. Sorry, like this, flatter. This is going to be your slope. Isn't it? For every 1 unit of this, you have 1.8 here. For every 1 unit of this, you have 2 here. So here it is more, here it is less. So this is going to happen. The slope is going to become flatter. If you get confused by the concept of slopes, the other thing you can go ahead and do is write the equation of the other budget line also. So you can go ahead and say that the new budget line will be 1 minus SPX plus PY into Y is equal to M. So when Y is 0, your X is going to be M by 1 minus S into PX, which means it is going to be your income upon 0.9 into PX. You can also go ahead and do it by this. So it will be 10 by 9 into M by PX. This will be 1 point something into M by PX. So whatever your M by PX was, it will be more than that. So the slope will go ahead and become flatter. Because the slope has fallen, it has decreased. Now the question is saying that you can get this price only up to X star. So this means that if I go ahead, I don't have this budget line here. And if I go ahead, I don't have this part of the budget line. This is how your budget line is looking. You are getting a higher price above X star and you're getting a lower price below X star. Before X star, the price is lower. So had this been the complete budget line, you would have afforded more X because of the subsidy, more X than what you're currently consuming. But this is not the budget line throughout. This is only till X star, beyond which the price goes to the usual price of PX by PY. Okay. Now let's read the question. It says if his weekly income is greater than X star minus 1 minus X PX, then the maximum amount of food he can buy. Maximum amount. So maximum amount of food means he's going ahead and spending his entire income on food. That is when he's going to consume the maximum amount, right? So let's go ahead and let's see what will happen if he spends his entire income on food. So if he spends his entire income on food, initial first X star units, he will be buying at the price of 1 minus S into PX. Once he buys this units, what is the expenditure on these units? The expenditure will be 1 minus S into PX into X star. And then from the remaining income that he has, what is his remaining income? Income minus the income that he has already spent, because he's spending all his remaining income on only good X. So whatever his remaining income is, he will divide that by PX. And that will give him the final amount. So if I go ahead and I solve for this, I will get M by PX minus 1 by S into PX by PX into X star. So this is going to be M by PX minus 1 plus S into X star. This is the amount that he can go ahead and consume with his entire income. This is how you can go ahead and find how much consumption it is possible for him to do. So let's see what we have done. First of all, we are going ahead and saying that he's spending all his income on good X, on food. Because he's spending all his income on food, that means he's buying more than X star units. He's able to buy more than X star units, which implies that first X star units he's going to get at a subsidy. The price that he is going to pay for it is going to be 1 minus S into PX. So we go ahead and we get this. And from the price that he goes ahead and he pays, he is going to buy X star units. So this is the amount of units that he buys. This is his expenditure. After doing this, his remaining income will be income minus what his expenditure has been on good X. And once we understand that, whatever his remaining income is, if he is spending all his remaining income on PX, this is going to be on X, this is going to be divided by PX. So you can go ahead and get this amount. This is the amount that he will be spending on good X. This is the maximum he can consume from that good. Now, if you go ahead and you think about this, sorry, this will be plus X star here. This will be minus X star plus S X star. So you can actually interpret this also. This is spending all income on X if the price is PX. And this is going ahead and saying that you are able to go ahead and buy these additional units. So this is the remaining income being spent and consumed. Now the question says, what is the total that he has consumed? So 1 minus S PX into X star. This is what he consumed initially. So from this expenditure, he consumed X star units. And from the other expenditure, he is consuming M by Px minus X star plus S X star. This is how much he is able to consume. So if I add these two things together, I will get M by Px plus Sx star. So the answer to this question is M by Px plus Sx star. Is this making sense? Is it a little confusing? Do you want me to explain this again? Anybody who is not clear with the concept? So we just have to go ahead and you can analyze it from here also. You are spending your entire income on good X. So definitely you are consuming all the units. The first X star units are consumed at a subsidy. So you're first consuming these X star units for sure. But you're consuming this at 1 minus S into Px. And this is your expenditure on that. Your total income was M. M minus the expenditure you have made on first X star units is your remaining money left. Whatever remaining money is left with you, you have to buy X star only with it. So you divide again by Px. You get the remaining units. But in these remaining units, you add back these X star units to understand what is the total units that you have consumed. Okay, this was a good question. Let's go ahead and take the next one. So the budget line slope was not required, but we wanted to go ahead and understand how to plot the budget line. Let's take the next question. The supply curve of a firm, first of all, always remember that the supply curve of firm is given by marginal cost curve. Always. Is given by marginal cost curve, so it is given here, which is, okay, now see here. See the rule, you should write this down. The rule says that you will only supply if you are able to cover your average variable cost. If you're not able to cover your AVC also, the basic average variable cost, you will exit the market. So basically what happens is, if this is my average cost curve and this is my average variable, sorry, average cost and average cost and average variable cost curve, then I can go ahead, plot a marginal cost, and the marginal cost touches the AVC and the AC at their minima. And I will go ahead and I will supply at the market only if I am able to cover my minimum variable cost. See, when the firm is not able to cover its average cost, but able to cover its average variable cost, we say it's fine. The firm will sustain in the long run. Somehow it will manage. But if the firm is not able to cover even its variable cost, let's say that the price at which the firm is selling is this, and the variable cost is above the price, then the firm has to shut down. It's the shutdown point. So only this part of the curve, which is above the average variable cost, this is the supply curve of the firm. So the answer is above the minimum of the average variable cost. Take the next question. This is a good one. So it's from macroeconomics. It says, suppose the goods market has equilibrium condition y is equal to c plus i plus g. Clearly, look, this is the disposable income. Interest rate is a function of real interest rate in investment. This is government expenditure. And you're also given output function. If there is exogenous increase in salary of government employees, while taxes and factors of production remain constant, the equilibrium real interest will. Now see here. recall what we did in the ISLM market. So I have an IS curve which derives itself from goods market equilibrium. And I have an LM curve which derives itself from the money market equilibrium. Because the question asks me for interest rate, I will be talking about ISLM curve because only they give me the equilibrium, interest rate and output. And the question also asks me about investment. Investment will simply be decided by the interest rate in the market. So I just have to ask myself, what happens to the interest rate? Now, see that the question tells you that there is increase in the salary of the employees. So when salary increases, this means that consumption will increase. When salary increases, this means that disposable income is increasing. So when disposable income is increasing, consumption will increase. When consumption will increase, I told you any factor, whether it is C, I or G, whenever it exogenously increases outside the model, it will always shift the curve. Which curve? Goods market curve, because this is goods market equilibrium. So it will shift the IS curve to the right. And the new equilibrium will be with higher interest rate and higher level of income. So interest rate will increase and income will also increase. In our case, real interest rate, okay? And because the interest rate is increasing, my investment should decrease, because higher the interest rate, higher is the rate at which I will get loan. Higher the rate at which I get loan, lower is my investment. So the answer is increase and decrease. Now, let's go ahead and read the next question. Consider the solo model. So this is coming from macroeconomics growth theory. Consider solo model growth without any technological progress. Assume that economy is initially at steady state. Now we just have to recall one equation for solo model. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. So the solo model has this equation. This is your amount of output, right? Whenever you get some amount of output, out of that amount of output, you will save some amount. So this will be savings on the full output level. I'm not concerned with this. I'm only concerned with my savings. Now, there is going to be depreciation plus there can be population growth rate plus there can be technological growth rate also. I'll take all three. So add, and this is some proportion of always capital, right? So at steady state, the rate at which you save is equal to the rate of depreciation plus employment rate or the population growth rate plus the technological growth rate. So what happens at the steady state is that you get an equilibrium here, right? This is the basic equation that at steady state, the two curves meet. Now it says, suppose that the savings rate of the economy increases. So if savings increase, and this says that this is some proportion of savings, increase in savings will shift this curve upwards. And if it shifts this curve upward, the new equilibrium will take place here. And at the new equilibrium, clearly I will have more steady state of capital. This was the initial rate. I will have a higher rate, higher steady state. Now, I have got the following, that when savings increase, then the amount of capital in the economy increases. Now, there is a law which is known as law of diminishing marginal product. As capital increases, the marginal product of capital decreases. So the marginal product of capital will go ahead and decrease. And we also talked about an important fact. And the fact is that output growth rate is never affected by savings. Savings always has a level effect. It increases the amount of capital and output in the economy, but it does not affect the growth rate of capital in the economy. Remember this thing. These are few things that should be on your tips now. That savings always has a level effect. It does not affect the growth rate of the economy. So the question here is asking us what is going to happen. So the answer is that marginal product will diminish, but growth rate will remain the same. Take the next question. Consider a small economy with floating exchange rate. Some recent events have led people to believe the worth of currency of this country will be less in the future. So your expectation about the exchange rate are that the exchange rate will depreciate. It will be less. Under this belief, the interest rate in the country will. Okay. Now there is a very simple equation that we must go ahead and we must remember. So you can write this down and remember this thing, that the interest rate in the economy, the interest rate that exists is equal to the other country's interest rate. And this is coming from my Mundell-Fleming model, that both the interest rate should be equal. Otherwise, there will be huge capital inflow or outflow, but plus expected depreciation. If there are some expectations of people, then this may mean that the interest rate between the two countries can be different. So the difference between the interest rate of the two countries is always due to expectation about depreciating or appreciating the currency. Now, because it is saying that they are believing that the currency will be less in the future, so usually whatever expectations are set, they will happen. So if they're expecting the currency to depreciate, the currency will actually depreciate in the future. So the currency will depreciate. And if the currency is going to depreciate, then what is going to happen according to this equation? My currency is depreciating. So when my currency depreciates, it is going to mean that this value is increasing, isn't it? So what is depreciation of the currency? You are going from rupees 60 per dollar to rupees 70 per dollar. So this is increasing. So this will also increase. So the interest rate in your currency will, in your country will increase. The answer is this. This is coming from your Mundell-Fleming model completely. So you should try and think about this. Whenever your currency depreciates, your exports will increase. Whenever your exports will increase, your net exports are increasing. Your current account balance will improve. Accordingly, your capital account is always accumulating. So whenever your current account balance improves, your interest rate in the economy will go ahead and increase under these expectations. Now let's go to the next question. Question number 9. Increase in exports will cause output to dash and price level to dash in the short run. So now when we talk about exports increasing, I have my simple equation, y is equal to c plus I plus g plus nx. If my net exports are increasing, my output will increase. And whenever your output will increase, then when I draw it in the aggregate demand supply space in the PY plane, this is my AD, this is my AS. When your aggregate demand increases because exports have increased, it is going to lead to not only higher level of output, but higher prices also. It is going to increase and increase. Both of them are going to go ahead and increase in the short run. Now, let's go ahead and take the next question. So this says the utility function, and this is your utility function which is given to you, is to be maximized. Okay, now simple. See, this is a min function. We know that whatever comes inside the min function has to be equated. So I'm going to equate x plus 2y is equal to 2x plus y. Now, usually, how do we solve for these equations? First of all, step 1, you will always find the king. To find the king, you will always equate whatever comes inside the min function. So you will get 2y minus y is equal to 2x minus x. So you will get y is equal to x. This is the first part. Step 2, you will always go ahead and consider certain level of utility. So suppose we take utility at 4. What will you do? You will say let x plus 2y be 4 and 2x plus y also be 4 because they have to be equal, right? When x plus 2y is 4, either x is 4, y is 0 or y is 2, x is 0. When 2x plus y is 4, when x is 0, y is 4. When y is 0, x is 2. So if I go ahead and I plot these, what do I get? The first line gives me x4 and y2. This is x plus 2y equal to 4. And the second line gives me 2x plus y equal to 4. So this gives me when x is 2 or y is 4. So, I'll take 3, I'll take 4. This is my line. And the kink was where x is equal to y. So all my line of kinks will pass through this. This is x is equal to y. Now just consider something, okay? So if I take this function, min of x plus 2y, comma 2x plus y, if I ask you what will happen when x plus 2y is less than 2x plus y, you will tell me that the minimum between the two will be x plus 2y. When x plus 2y is less than 2x plus y. Now, if we go ahead and we solve this equation, this happens when 2y minus y is less than 2x minus x or y is less than x. So whenever x is greater than y, the minimum of the two is x plus 2y. Where is x greater than y? Here, this line shows x is equal to y. Obviously, in this part, I am going to go ahead and have x greater than y. For a given y, x will always have a higher value. And here I will have x less than y. And when x is greater than y, the minimum of the two is x plus 2y, which is this equation. So I will just remove this part. Similarly, in x less than y, you will get the other equation. So this will be your final indifference curve. Now, what is the question saying? The question is saying that x is 5, y is 6, which means the question is saying that x is less than y. If x is less than y, then which equation, which part of the indifference curve are you talking about? This red line, right? And this red line, what is the slope of this red line? The slope is simple. It's perpendicular, which was 4, by base, which was 2. So 4 by 2, which is 2. But the slope of indifference curve should be equal to the slope of budget line. So you will have 2 is equal to px by py, or px equal to 2 times py. So what will be our answer? Px is equal to 2 times py. These are very, very important questions. Whatever is related to these min functions and composite functions, you have to go ahead and practice all these questions today itself. One of them will definitely come in exam. Okay, now let's go to the next question. Income elasticity of an inferior good is always. How do we write the income elasticity? So basically the elasticity of anything is given by percentage change in demand due to percentage change in price. This is the price elasticity. When I talk about the income elasticity, then it is going to be percentage change in demand due to percentage change in income. Right? Now let's go ahead and take this forward. So if we understand this thing, we should also be able to rewrite it like this. How quantity changes when income changes into initial income by initial quantity. For inferior goods, we know that whenever there is an increase in income, there is a decrease in the quantity. So since there is a decrease in the quantity, there is an inverse or a negative relationship, right? So the only thing that we are clear from here that this, when income increases, quantity decreases, this will be negative. Income is positive only. Quantity in itself is a positive unit. So this will be positive. So negative into positive will simply be negative. So the answer is negative. Let's take the next question. Let me know how many you were able to do correctly in this paper so that, we will be able to analyze which topics to focus on more. So maybe you can just put that in the chat window. We should know how many we were able to do well. In 2018, Indians consumed 40 billion kgs of potatoes. The average price of potato was rupees 20 per kg. So price of potato was 20 per kg. A statistical report indicates that the price elasticity of demand and supply for potato was this. So price elasticity of demand means how quantity changes when price changes into initial price by initial quantity. This is minus 0.40. And the supply elasticity was 0.50. So this is quantity demanded. And this says how quantity supplied changes when price changes into initial price by initial quantity supplied. This was 0.50. Now it asks you to go ahead and tell the linear demand and supply function for potatoes. Now, one thing that we can go ahead and do in this case, which is a longer technique, is to go ahead and find the price elasticity for each of these. So what you can go ahead and you can do is, from here, if you have the demand function as P is equal to 70 minus 1.25 Q, you go ahead and you find DP. DP will be minus 1.25 DQ. So you will know that DP by DQ is minus 1.25. And you can go ahead and do this for each one of these, right? So at least you will know what is DP by DP by DQ for each of these. That, and you know the price. The price is 20 and you know that it is 40. Quantity is 40. So you can go ahead and then put those values and you can find elasticity of each of these. That would be the first method where you go ahead and you do a hit and trial method. The second thing that we can go ahead and we can do is the other way around. So if I go ahead and I put the value of price and quantity here, I will simply know that this is coming to, the price is 20 and India consumed 40 billion. So demand and supply are equal, which is 40. So this is 40. So this is just half, right? I just get 1/2 food. And here also, we would know that we will get 1/2. So now from here, you know that your dq by dp is it going to be minus 0.4 into 2, so minus 0.8. And you know that dqs by dp will be 0.5 into 2, which will be 1. So what you can go ahead and do in this case is simply to check where these conditions are satisfied. And wherever the two conditions are satisfied simultaneously, that can be your answer. So for each of them, you go ahead, you find out where the two conditions get satisfied, and wherever they are satisfied, that will be your answer. So just try this yourself once and let me know if you're able to solve that. Okay. Now let's take the next question. So S and T are two restaurants, and this says that they're competing with each other for profit. In a university campus, the market demand for food is given by this equation. So let's see the equation. We have P is equal to 140 minus Q and 0 otherwise. It's only when quantity is less than 140. Otherwise, it will be negative. And then this goes ahead and says that, you know, Q is the market demand. Q is equal to QS plus QT. QS is the quantity supplied by firm S. And QT is the quantity supplied by firm T. And the marginal cost of food of production is constant at 20 per unit for both the restaurants. So marginal cost is same. And it is at 20. What is the Cournot-Nash equilibrium? Okay. See, for Cournot-Nash equilibrium, ideally, by practicing, you should be able to know the formula exactly for the Cournot-Nash equilibrium. If not, then, you know, I'm just going to take 5 minutes, but I want you to be there with me. Just see here. What do we do? The price function is alpha minus supposedly Q. So there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity. So my revenue of the firm is given by price into quantity, which is alpha minus Q into Q. And my cost is suppose small c per unit. Suppose. So my total cost will be C into Q. So profit of the firm is given by revenue minus cost. Okay. Now see here. I can write the profit of firm 1 also as revenue minus cost, but he is only producing Q1 units. He's only producing Q1 units. But here I will not write Q1. No. Because this is the equation of the price. And the price equation is coming from here. Similarly, the profit for firm 2 will also be alpha minus Q into, he's selling Q2 units minus C into Q2. This Q in the price function is the total quantity, because price in the market is determined by total quantity. So the profit of firm 1 can be alpha minus Q1 minus Q2 into Q1 minus CQ1. And profit in firm 2 is alpha minus Q1 minus Q2 into Q2 minus CQ2. Cournot model says firms simultaneously decide the quantity. After today, you should be remembering these things, okay? As long as you're given the same marginal cost, you directly should be able to remember the final formula that I will derive. So you will maximize this profit with respect to Q1 and you will get alpha. You know, alpha Q1 becomes alpha minus Q1 square becomes 2Q1 minus Q1 Q2 gives you minus Q2. Differentiation of this will be minus C equal to 0. And for firm 2, it will be symmetric. So wherever you see Q1, replace it with Q2. Wherever you see Q2, replace it with Q1. And now you will get two equations. 2Q1 plus Q2 is equal to alpha minus C, and Q1 plus 2Q2 is equal to alpha minus C. If you solve these two equations simultaneously, you will get Q1 star is equal to Q2 star is equal to alpha minus C by 3. Remember this. You will not have time in exam to solve this. So whenever two firms have same marginal cost, see, if they would have different marginal cost, then it would have been a little difficult. Here I would have put C1, here I would have put C2. So this would have been C1, C2, C1, C2. They won't have been symmetric functions, C1, C2, right? And accordingly, you would have solved these two equations. But currently, if they are symmetric, you will simply get alpha minus C by 3. And if you go ahead and look at the question, it is giving you exactly same thing. So I will simply put, what is alpha? Alpha is this, right? Alpha minus Q. So in my case, alpha is 140. So 140 minus, what is C? Marginal cost 20 by 3. So it is 120 by 3, which is 40. So each firm will sell exactly 40 units. You should be remembering this. There is actually a formula which you should remember even when costs are different. Alpha minus 2C1 plus C2 by 3. But you should try and derive this today. Today itself, okay? Derive the quantity of firm 1 and firm 2 when they have different marginal costs. Solve these two equations. So that next time, when it tells you that firm 1 incurs 20 rupees and firm 2 incurs 30 rupees, you should be able to solve that also. Okay. So any doubt you have in today's questions, anything? Okay. I'll post the next set of questions on micro and macro and we'll discuss them tomorrow. Thank you.